I've actually got a pedigree.
Oh, you do?
I do, but it doesn't go back.
Of Rambo or what?
It goes back. It's that young dog that I have here that goes back to Rambo, and then it shows Blue Mash and you know. But that's as far back as it goes. It's only 7 generations back.
Well, I have a generation. Okay, so I had Rambo, and then we took a female down to breed to Rambo after I sold him.
Yeah.
So I have a paper of that pup would tell a couple of the generations back we can look at or talk about.
Yeah, we might do that.
It's over here on the other chair. I can grab it.
Okay. Well, let's just get into it. Dave, I appreciate you taking time. Do you prefer Dave or David?
Whatever you feel like calling.
Your Facebook profile says Dave. And so, so I'll call you. If I call you something wrong, just tell me and we'll clean it up.
You're fine.
Yeah. I'm easy. So, after we recorded with Brian and Connor a couple weeks ago on part 1 of the Bluetick Legends type thing, and we do several podcasts called Legends. So, and then we try to focus on individual dogs and individual people and things like that. After we did that with Brian and Connor, then you popped up, and I found you because you posted some pictures of the original Rambo dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't take offense to this, but
someone had.
Go ahead.
Someone on there asked if there was any pictures of Slife's Rambo, and I happened to see it.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, I've only got a couple pictures of him, and I took him with a disposable Kodak camera one night, and I quick had to take up the rest of the pictures so I could get them developed, and just have those 2 pictures is all I had of him. And I don't even know if I've got any more. I mean, there's a couple, but they're so dark. I didn't have a great camera or nothing, and the pictures are terrible. Those are the best. That one that was on that page, and then there's one other one, right? Basically the same picture.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually David Slife, the original owner of Slife's Blue Rambo, and man, it was just like a stroke of luck that I happened to be looking at that at the time, David. And I thought, man, we got to go back another generation and talk about the original Rambo dog. And I appreciate you taking time to talk to us.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Glad to share if I can.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about some of this stuff off air, and I hate talking too much when we're not recording because it's hard to recreate and recapture some of those things that were those moments in the original conversation. But, you were talking about Rambo, and you started him from a puppy. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I got him when he was 6 weeks old.
Was he a local dog there?
Yes. In my town, there was a school teacher that was a friend of mine, and he had a Bluetick female named Jacobian Sally. Okay, and then him and another friend got me introduced into the club, and there was another gentleman over there that had Plattner's Blue Mash. So I think at the time, a Walker young dog, not even really very good, but that's all I had.
Right.
But anyhow, I started going to the club with them, and I got to hunting with Jacobian Sally because he was right there in my town. And then he introduced me to Larry Plattner, and I got to go with Mash quite a few times also. So I got to hunt with the mom and the dad. Well, they made the cross, and she had a big litter, but she was about half crazy, and she killed all of them but 5 males.
No kidding. I wonder why she killed everything but males.
Well, I don't know.
That's crazy.
She just went berserk thinking they were trying to nurse, and they were getting up on her or whatever. He said she was killing them right and left. anyhow, this is a long time ago, but this is the way I remember the story anyway. So he bottle fed these pups from the get-go because the mom wanted to kill them. So he saved 5 males, and they all went to, Beryl Monk took one because he was owner of Sally. Then Larry Plattner got one because he was the owner of MASH.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one. Kurt Cassidy got one. And Kenny Wright, just a neighboring fella that liked to coon hunt. So they were all very local. So we knew where everybody's was. And they all made coon dogs, but Rambo kind of turned out the best.
Yeah.
He was my buddy. You know, I was a young fella, and he spent.
How old were you at the time, David?
It was 1985, so I was just out of high school. I think I was 19. That's when that litter was born.
Yeah. Yeah. How many years before that had you been coon hunting before you happened to come across this pup?
My dad got me a black and tan crossed up dog when I was like 8 or 9.
Really?
And we lived on a farm right up against a public hunting area. Our land butted up against this public hunting area in Buchanan County, Iowa. And so I had the perfect place to train dogs. And so that's what I did. A lot of people went out and run around and did this and that and whatever. And I was messing with dogs all the time. If I wasn't at school, I was doing chores or messing with dogs.
That's amazing. And so you lived right on the edge of this. So you just walked from the house.
Yep. I could walk from the house right down the river. So when them pups were little, I could take them for walks and chase squirrels and cats and possums and coons and everything. Walk across that river road out of our cornfield right down into that river bottom. So every evening I'd just take pups for walks all the time. So they got to learn a lot that way.
Yeah. My mom always said that I'm the oldest of 6, and she always said she didn't have to worry about where I was because I was going to be out hunting somewhere.
I was down at the river fishing or hunting or doing something with dogs all the time.
And there wasn't a curfew on Friday and Saturday nights for me because I was coon hunting most of the time. Now, if I went out, if I left without a coon dog, there was a curfew.
Yeah.
And I may or may not have used that to my advantage at times. I may have left with.
I think I probably did myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you'd been hunting for several years. Tell me about life before Rambo. I mean, what was your hunting like?
Well, basically, for me, I hunted alone a lot. My dad kind of introduced me to the sport. He wasn't a coon hunter, so when I was 5 years old, he took me squirrel hunting for the first time. Well, I was 5 years old, and Dad told me that squirrel season opened that morning, and so I wanted to go squirrel hunting. He said, "Nope, I got to put the corn picker on the tractor." So I cried myself to sleep, and partway into my nap, he got me and said, "There's a squirrel out by the corn crib." So we went out there, and he held the rifle, and I aimed through the scope, and he said, "Can you see him?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Can you put the crosshairs on him?" And I didn't even know what crosshairs were.
Right.
He says that when you get it on there, then slip that safety off. And he was holding the gun, but I was aiming. He said, "Slip that safety off, squeeze that trigger." So I squeezed the trigger and shot him through the front leg and the chest. And I was hooked on hunting after that. So
no kidding.
Yeah. Anyhow, he got me like I said, a black and tan. Wandered into my cousin's place, and I went to trying to train that thing, and it wasn't real great. About the only time I could ever get a coon is when she'd run one in a hole in the ground because she wouldn't treat to save her life.
Right.
And then eventually I got a hold of a walker pup and started kind of the training program that I come up with. And he turned out to be pretty good. I put him in a few hunts and got some places. And I think I finally finished him into a night champion. That's about all he ever did. And then after that, then of course I got a hold of Rambo, and he took off and turned out really nice.
Right. Well, before we dive into Rambo and find out what kind of dog he was, how he trained out, and all that stuff, you said you got to hunt with Mash and who was it?
Sally.
Sally. I thought it was
the
Sally.
mother was Sally, Jacoby and Sally.
So tell me what kind of dogs they were. You know, how their hunting style, the quality of dogs, stuff like that.
Mash was extremely brilliant. He was almost like a human. He was so smart. He could just manufacture a coon one right after another. He'd stand on his hind feet and wind a coon and bust off down in the woods and have it treed so quick you didn't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Quick strike dog, honest strike dog. He was as good a hound as you could ask for. Sally, I loved her. She was drop dead gorgeous, beautiful hound. Dark, so dark you thought she was black and tan. She was
no kidding.
Oh man, she was beautiful. That was out of Perryman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's some Perrymans still that are into hounds today. I'm sure it's probably some descendants of stuff they had.
Yeah,
probably. But anyway, yeah, she was a ball mouth tree dog and a layup specialist. She's I loved her, and she may not have been as good a hound as Mash, but she was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked her a lot. Yeah.
And these two guys were just, they knew each other, they'd hunted with each other, and they knew they wanted to make this cross.
Yeah, they'd hunted with each other. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just pleasure hunt. I don't know if they drew each other in any of the hunts. I don't know that, but we had like club hunts that were like for fun. You know, they weren't like UKC sanctioned. They were just club hunts. And so we'd all drawn out with each other, you know, in those things. So that's how they basically probably got to see what each other's dogs were like. And Larry was winning lots of hunts with Mash back in those days. So, you know how word gets around about all that.
Sure. Do you know if he bred Mash a lot, or was it just pretty close to home there?
I don't know for sure. I think he bred pretty close to home, but there was people that brought him in for quite a ways, brought dogs in to breed to Mash.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many, but there was probably several.
Yeah.
But I only had just the one out of Rambo, and Sally is the only one I had. About
what age were you when you got to know Plattner and your buddy there that had Sally? Did you know him in school?
Like I said, Daryl Monk was a school teacher, but he was not my school teacher because I didn't come there until after junior high.
Okay.
I started going to school there, and he was a junior high teacher. So basically, I just got to know him through coon hunting. And of course, I lived right there too. So I knew he was a school teacher. But like I said, I didn't ever have him as a teacher, but we hunted together a lot. Like every week we were going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That helps. That helps.
Yeah, I got to see Sally go a lot. And
that helps with mom and dad too, when the local school teacher.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they knew him, and he was very well liked around the community. Yeah, he was a good guy. He still is. I mean, he's still up there. I don't see him hardly ever anymore, but he's still up there.
You got to stop by and see him before, I'll tell you. Things go quick. That's for sure.
I go through that town quite often at night, but I don't get up there hardly ever. I don't live up there now. South of their ways. Yeah. But I go up through there and coon hunt at night still. There's some public ground up there I go on, and I have a brother-in-law that still lives up there close to my home farm.
Right.
We sold our farm, but I still have a little bit of access there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about
my wife's brother owns right up to it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Rambo. That's I've got a dog that goes back to Rambo. I've probably every Bluetick besides my jazz female that I've had here in the last 5 years has had Rambo in his pedigree. usually either off a big country or Crash or somewhere there. But, did you ever imagine that? How many years ago would that have been? A few decades when,
1985, 6, 7. Right in there.
Man, that's closing in on 40 years.
Yeah.
And the problem is we both remember those days real well.
Yeah, that's yeah.
But did you ever imagine that many years later we would be sitting here talking about a puppy that you started from 6 weeks old?
No. If I had to do it all again, I would have found a way to not sell the dog.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing of it is, me having to sell that dog was the best thing for him and for the breed to be able to have access to him.
Yeah.
Because if he was my dog, he would have just been my personal dog, and I'd have just stayed local, hunting in the hunts, and bred a handful of females to people that were close.
Yeah, let's save the breeding part here, on for a talk here in a little bit, because I don't want to get ahead. I don't want to get too far ahead in the story. So
okay,
I'll
wreck your plans.
Yeah, well, we'll get to it.
I know. Yeah,
but when we talk about starting young dogs, how did Rambo? How did he start? What'd you do with him? You got him at 6 weeks. What was your training program that you said you developed that turned him into a coondog? So starting from early age, and let's just talk about his progression as a young dog and till he was finished out.
Well, he was as good a young dog as you could ever ask for. I mean, he was intelligent from the get-go.
The Houndsman XP Podcast Network is powered by Cajun Lights. All of your lighting needs for hunting can be taken care of at Cajun Lights. They have 3 models of cap lights. I'm going to run through them real quick. You've got the Rougarou, which is their high-end light. If you're a competition hunter and you got to find that coon up in a tree and it's all riding on finding that coon, you'll want the Rougarou on your head. Next is the Bayou. That's a pretty standard light, but it's got packed with features. It's got multiple colors. It's got walking lights. It's got the red, the green, the amber. It's all built in right into that light. And then you have one of my personal favorites, the Micro Gator. The Micro Gator is an ultra lightweight cap light. It's got all the features of a white light, red, green, and amber. I've used this light for everything from finding bear tracks early in the morning to coon hunting at night to working on plumbing in the house, changing tires on the side of the road. My truck doesn't leave the driveway without a Cajun light in it, and that light is the Micro Gator. Every Cajun light is durable, made from the highest quality components, and it is backed by Cajun's top-rated customer service. Check out Cajun Lights. You can go to our website at houndsmanxp.com. Go to our sponsors page, hit that link, it'll take you right to Cajun Lights. Check them out. They got a lot of stuff to offer over at Cajun Lights. Hey guys, are you using onX Hunt on your phone, the app? It's pretty cool, man. We just got back from this trip that we're talking about right now. So I hunted Louisiana and Texas, and everybody was on onX, looking at landowners, looking at terrain, looking at all the features that those comprehensive maps have to offer. And I wasn't even using the map cards in my GPS. I'm just coordinating everything with my GPS and looking at onX, and boom, I had to retrieve dogs off of a neighboring property in Louisiana. And when we were in Texas, we were checking landowner information. We had to do it there as well. And it made it super easy to be able to find out who owned the property, gain access and permission to get that done. You need to be using onX, and you can check out onX by going to houndsmanxp.com, go to our sponsor page, click on their logo, big red square with a white X in it, go to their website and sign up for their elite membership. You'll get access to all 50 states, all kinds of cool features. You can mark routes, trails, signs, all of it. It's all right there. Enter the promo code HXP20 and get 20% off. Know where you stand with OnX.
We were best friends. He knew what I wanted. I mean, he could just figure it out, and I knew we got each other. So, my training program, I've told you, I could leave the house and walk down that river road and chase critters from the time he was able to walk. We were walking down that river road with him every day. So he got all kinds of different smells, that he was able to investigate and whatever. And whenever I could get my hands on a coon or whatever, I'd plant it down there. I was started out by, I'd throw a burlap sack in the thing and lay a little bit of a drag, with some scent and try to get him to do that. And then later on, I basically I had an old milk carton that like a bag of milk goes in this plastic carton. Okay. So I'd get a coon and put in that carton, and I would take it and I would make sure the wind was going to be blowing at us, and I wouldn't lay a drag. So I wanted him to hunt with his head up, not on the ground all the time. So I'd take it off down in the timber, a couple 100 yards or whatever, and hang it in a tree up about 12, 15 foot, just so he had to catch that in the air.
Yeah.
So he had his nose up all the time rather than down on the ground all the time. A lot of the dogs just want to booger and beat a track around on the ground all the time.
Right.
And the ones that can get their head up and win stuff and take off and flying through the timber and catch that scent, I mean, they can handle that stuff and they don't waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
On the bad stuff, So
this plastic, I got to get back to this plastic milk carton, because the plastic milk carton that he's talking about, and I'm going to describe my setup and you tell me if you had the same deal. So I did the exact same thing. I took an old milk carton and I took a set of hinges and I cut a piece of plywood for the top, and I put an eye bolt through the top of the thing so I could hang it up. But so the coon would be inside this milk carton, and we see them now. They're still, you can buy them at Walmart. People put their socks.
Yeah, back then they were either blue or green, and they had hinges on them that you could open them up, like it had a kind of like a crate.
It's a crate. It's a crate,
and there was a plastic milk bag that goes inside there with a nipple thing down, and they had those dispensers, that you get milk out of or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's what we used back in those days.
I use the exact same thing. That is so ironic. And I had to cut a V notch in the side of it, so that way when you had the pole snare on a coon, you could stick him in that crate and let it off of him and still get your pole snare out. So the V notch in the side was just, maybe 2 inches wide and 2 inches deep. Right. And I did the exact same thing. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But anyhow, he picked that up. So he got the program figured out pretty quick that he wasn't going looking for a track. He was running through the woods with his head up winding. And that's how he got good at doing that. And he was just naturally fast on a track. He could run them, even a bad track. He run quicker than most dogs could, but a good track he could just fly on as good as any dog I've ever owned.
How was he built? I mean, was he built for speed, or was he kind
like
of
a racehorse?
Yeah.
No, he was. If you can imagine show dogs that are all, I don't even know how to tell you, but yeah, he was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he
just
pretty
big old deep cut chest, great feet, and his tail was always cocked up, and he strutted around like he was just something else. He just had some attitude. He would just strut around.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Was he a pretty leggy dog? Tall?
As far as tall, when I had him in good shape, he was 65 pounds.
Okay.
Of course, he could get heavy if I let him get out of shape, which he never was out of shape because I hunted all the time. But yeah, he was 65 pounds. I would call him medium on height. He wasn't big, but he wasn't small either.
Yeah.
He was about, in my opinion, about perfect, really. And he was a great looking dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how old was he when you started hunting him, and did you hunt him a lot by himself, or how old was he when he first started treeing coons that you weren't planning?
Basically, that's how I always do, is hunt alone.
Mm-hmm.
I go with friends occasionally, but my hunting style is I hunt alone, and typically it's just me and one dog.
Yeah. Well, how old was Rambo when he first treated his first
6
coon?
months old.
6 months old.
6 months old. He treated his first coon on that river road, and the dog that I have now struck right. I have a dog now that's a Bluetick. She's a Grand Show champion. She's out of big country, but she struck her first coon about 50 yards away from where Rambo struck his first coon. And, but she was 11 months old when I got her finally to start. But Rambo was 6 months old when he treated his first coon. And he didn't do a fantastic job on the very first one, but that was a building point or whatever from then on. After he treated the first one, of course, I'm always carrying a rifle along on a pup, so he got that one. And after that, he just pretty much figured out that that's the game plan, and he picked it up quick. So yeah, by the time he was a year old, he was doing it all the time. But yeah, 6 months old, first one. Like I said, he didn't do a bang up job. He didn't tree with confidence right off the bat. It was probably it was a long time ago, so I'm trying to remember all this, but it was probably a couple, 2 or 3 months before he was consistently treeing his own coon every night.
It takes some time to get that consistency down.
Yeah, he started early.
Yeah. And I think you were doing this with him every day.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I lived right there, other people do whatever, but that was my entertainment, was messing with them dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of mouth did he have? I'm curious about, I'm going to be like a little kid here asking you a bunch of questions about.
That's okay.
Yeah.
He was kind of ball and squall on the ground, and he was loud. He had a good mouth. Yeah, a real good mouth. And he would chop some at the tree, but it was kind of ball and chop at the tree. Just pretty. I mean, if you're a blue ticker, you like the way pretty hounds sound, and he was it.
Yeah.
So
did he have a real distinctive locate? I'm trying to figure these things out here. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody that knew anything about coon hunting could call him off his locate. Yeah. And when he hit that perfect locate, you could book him. He wasn't moving.
Was he a dog that would was he pretty accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of his best traits, is he was accurate. Yeah. So at least when I had him, other people can tell you all kinds of different things, in his life after me. I can't vouch for all that, because after, I sold him to Harlow's, and after that, I don't know where he went or who had him or what he did or anything. We don't have we didn't have the technology then that we have now, with the computers and the phones and the Facebook and all that. When he left here, the only time I seen him, I went down. Rick and Riley Harlow were my best friends, father-in-law and brother-in-law, and they bought Rambo from me.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend lived in Oklahoma, so I got to go down there occasionally and see him or hunt with him again after that. But then they had him, I don't even know, 2 or 3 years after that, and then they sold him again and on down the line. So I don't know anything about him after that.
Yeah.
What all?
So did you? How did your name stick on him? Did you enter him in competition coon hunts and?
Yes.
How'd that go?
Yeah, I finished him into night champion and a show champion, and then I believe he had either 2 or 3 night champion wins on him when I sold him to them, to Rick and Riley Harlow.
Yeah, and this would have been early 90s, right?
That's why he still had my name, is because I finished him and it was branded on there for life.
Right. Yeah. Once you make a dog a champion in UKC, then you can't change the original name. So, which I like that a lot. I'm glad they still do that. So back in those days, and we probably have some people that are listening to this podcast after you.
Oh, is this live?
No, well, not yet, but it will be.
Okay.
There'll probably be some people listening to this podcast that weren't hunting in the 90s or before UKC came out with their new format. And back in those days, you had to accumulate 100 championship points in the registered class and a first place registered win to make it night champion. And then after you made night champion, you had to get 5 night champion wins. And there was only one that they gave away at most of these local hunts. But those night champion casts, there might be 4 or 5 casts of dogs at a club hunt or at a local UKC hunt. So it wasn't an easy task to get those five night champion wins.
Right. Yeah, that was the tough part. Later on, I think it was anything above 20 dogs, they would give 2 wins out.
Yeah.
I think after a while, that's the way they changed that too. But right off the bat, there was only 1 night champion win for a while there. And you couldn't just get a cast win. It had to be the high scoring dog in the night champion. So it was harder to get them. I can't remember if I had 2 or 3 on him when I sold him to them guys, and then they finished him on out.
What were the clubs like back in those days when you were a kid? When I was a kid and started going to the clubs, you had to get there early. If the parking lots were packed, there might be 20 to 30 registered dogs, same number of night champions. Correct. And it was kind of an all-day event. Was it the same way in Iowa?
Yes, it was. At the local club that I'd go to, there'd be 25, 35 dogs at every hunt. And that's not the way it is now.
Right.
A lot of times there's only 5 dogs or 10 dogs at a hunt around here now. Yeah. But back then there was a lot of dogs, and everybody had a kitchen going, and they had their wives there working in the kitchens and helping out. It was a big deal.
And
back when I was a kid.
And you mentioned a club hunt, which is totally unheard of these days, other than maybe some clubs still do a opening night of season. Coon season type, get together and have a big coon contest or something like that.
Skinning contest or something.
But back in those days, man, we had buddy hunts, we had club hunts. You competed for high scoring dog of the year through your club hunts. It was all a local type thing. It was a totally different atmosphere than what we have today.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. It kind of got me interested in doing it.
Yeah, me too. I still remember those days. And so you got 2 or 3 wins on Rambo, and then how in the world did he ever end up leaving your house if you guys were that tight?
Well, it was I got laid off from work, and as a young fella, I figured I needed a little cash to get me through the tough times or whatever. So I knew those folks, and they offered me some money, and I didn't feel I could turn it down at the time.
Sure.
Like I said, if I had it to do today, I would figure out a way where I didn't have to let him go. But here again, that was probably the best thing for him to get in the hands of those good men and get him campaigned like he should be and studded out and advertised and taken to the big hunts. And he wouldn't have got to do all that with me probably.
Right. Do you know if they bred him much? Who did you say bought him from you?
Rick and Riley Harlow. No, I don't know the breeding, how much they did. I know they did some there, but I don't know how much. I have no idea.
Do you know who owned him when Lonnie Smiley bred Misty Blue to him?
No, because like I said, the technology, I had no idea who had what. Right. I wasn't big into the coonhound world as the way it is, so I didn't know really any. I didn't even know nothing about there being a Rambo 2 or 3 or all them dogs I never heard of till recently.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's just through Facebook or through whatever on the phones now. You get to see different dogs or different men or whatever. When he left here, I had no idea where he was or how I could even get a hold of a pup out of him. I had no clue. He was just gone. So I didn't know anything about it.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been pretty rough. Did you quit hunting for a while completely?
Yes, I did. I didn't quit right then, but through the years, just life got going on, and I quit for a long time. And then I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I just decided. A friend of mine wanted to get back into it a little bit, and he got a black and tan night champion, and I got a pup out of that night champion black and tan and started training it, and she turned out really good, and I finished her into a grand night champion, and kind of took off from there. And then I seen on the internet that Darren Batterson had bred his Mabel female to Big Country, and I got a hold of him in the text and asked him if there was any left available, and he said that there was one left. And so I took, I think I sent him the whole price of the pup right off the bat to ensure that I would get one. And he bred his female to Big Country, and I got one of them and went to training on that one. And she's a grand night champion, grand show champion, and she's out of Big Country, and she's 3 years old.
Oh, she's only 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was trying to remember when Darren bred his female, and Ashley and John must have bought Big Country by that time, because I'm pretty sure that they've had him for 4 or 5 years. I'm pretty sure she will be
4 the last few days in July.
Yeah.
So she'll, she's close to 4, but she's still 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I know Darren had one at the time also that he made a night champion, and I don't know if any more are good out of that cross or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I don't either. As much as I'm always talking about dogs on this podcast and doing all that stuff, but I just don't have time to keep track of everything that's going on with individuals.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I don't have a clue.
Yeah. Well, maybe
that's just kind of where I'm.
Maybe Darren will reach out to me and let me know how that litter turned out, because I would be interested. So what are some of your early memories? What's one of your best memories when you owned Rambo? When you were hunting him?
Just when I went to a hunt with Rambo, I was very confident that I had the dog to beat in the cast, no matter who I drew. And I didn't win everything. I got beat plenty of times, but I had the confidence when I went to a hunt that I could beat anybody there.
Right.
And like I said, I didn't win everything. I got beat several times, but I won quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
Yeah. What's the biggest hunt you personally put him in?
Just these. I never went to any big hunts. Just
Okay.
these close local hunts is all I ever been to. Even to this day, I usually don't run around going to bigger hunts. I just go to the ones that are close by. I did go a few years back. I did go to Black and Tan days with that Grand Night female that I had. I didn't really do any good down there. Yeah, it was kind of, I didn't do any good at all down there. But it's just kind of I was an outsider in a bunch of people I didn't know.
I wonder if do you know Jeremy Smiley, Lonnie Smiley's son?
No, I don't know any of those folks.
Yeah.
I wish I did, but I don't.
So Lonnie took his Misty Blue female and bred to Rambo, and that's where Rambo 2 came from.
Okay.
And I'm going to have to reach out to Jeremy because I'm trying to put all these pieces of this puzzle together. You know, those dogs, those great dogs, and I'm not saying that they're the only line of dogs that are producing coon dogs. That's not what we're doing. We're just I've got vested interest here because you know, Big Country was had Rambo in his pedigree. The pups that I've hunted for a few generations have. So I'm really trying to put some pieces together to find out, you know, what that combination was that has made such a huge impact on the Bluetick breed between Crash and Big Country and there's several others. Jeremy Smiley is running dogs that go back to Rambo 2 and Rambo and all that breeding. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing to figure out, I guess. I mean, they've worked well, and I think they'll probably continue to work well if you can get some of that blood back or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. How does it make
someday I would love to breed this Grand Night female to some kind of Rambo blood closer than what she's got. I mean, she's got some in there because she's out of country. But I'd like to find some semen or something that's closer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breed
well, maybe somebody will hear this podcast and reach out to you. And maybe it's Brian or Connor Lucas. Maybe they've got something over there that they'd be interested in breeding. So I'm sure that they'll listen to this podcast. I know Connor will for sure. And
she's a nice hound, and she has a set of papers that you'd die for.
What's her bottom side look like?
You know, I'd have to get it for sure and tell you. Everything's very heavily Houndsman bred, but every dog on the papers except for one is a Grand Night champion. Every dog on the paper except for one, and it's in the last column. So if you had pups out of a Grand Night, all Grand Night male and her, the pups would be all Grand Night papers.
Yeah.
Which papers don't make a dog. That's not what I'm saying, but they're not. If you're looking at papers, they're good ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Heavy Houndsman bred.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. I bet Darren's still got some stuff up on his Facebook feed. And I'll do some slinking around and try to find out some more information on that.
I could go get her papers too. They're in the basement, but yeah.
Nah, we'll save that piece of the
another
puzzle.
Time.
Yeah, for another time. Time. Well, I'll tell you what, David, I appreciate you taking time to help us piece this thing together a little bit. And I just didn't. After I was going to tell you this earlier. When I saw the name Slife's Rambo and knowing how far back he was, you know, in the early 90s, I just figured that Mr. Slife was off to the happy hunting ground. You know, I figured it was some older guy.
Not yet. Still kicking.
Yeah.
Still kicking and chasing dogs around.
I was absolutely thrilled when I found out that you and I were close to the same age and you would come on the podcast to talk about Rambo. That was amazing.
How old are you?
I'm 55.
I'm 50. I'll be 59 in August.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a real thrill to find out that I could actually talk to to the Slife of Slife's Rambo, and I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm not nobody famous or anything like that. I just was lucky enough to get a young hound that went on and made himself famous.
That's an amazing story, really. I mean, it really is. Because you just never know. You never know what's going to happen.
He just got in the hands of good men that were able to send his genes on down the line and keep in that good blood in the breed.
Yeah. And you talk about the Uchmans, you talk about all the other things that, when you start looking at Misty Blue, she was out of Uchman's Hawk. And, you just start putting all the pieces together. And then I gotta say though, that Rambo 2 probably made Rambo, he carried that legacy forward and helped that whole story a lot.
I'll bet. Yeah. I wish I could have known those dogs and hunted with those men and those dogs before they were gone.
The thing of it is, the crazy thing is Lonnie Smiley lived in Indiana for a while, and he was just north of me, up above Shelbyville, somewhere up in that area, just a few minutes. I used to hunt out of the Shelbyville Club all the time. I guarantee you I've met Lonnie Smiley back in the day and had no idea who I was talking to. And so that's one of those deals.
You never met him either?
No, I've never met him. And then Kevin Leach, they were all over west of me towards Bloomington, Indiana, and they all hunted out of the Ace Coon Club over there at Martinsville. And so you had Kevin, and then you had Brian Lucas and all those guys over there that were hunting Blueticks. And that Rambo 2 was right there the whole time in the 90s and stuff. And
you never got to see him.
I may have drawn him, and I don't remember drawing him. But it's just one of those deals that Indiana has been such a hotbed for all of these great dogs that I wish I had a time machine and I could go back now, and I'd have my feelers out and I'd have laser vision looking for that Rambo 2 dog and Lonnie Smiley and see
if
what
I had a time machine, I'd go back and get Rambo back and hunt some more.
There you go.
And I wouldn't sell him.
All right. Well, David, thank you very much for taking time out of your evening and joining us on the Houndsman XP podcast. I really do appreciate it.
That's not a problem. If you need to talk some more, you give me a shout.
All right. Well, it was a real pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
You too. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Houndsman XP podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to ask you for a real quick favor, though. So if you enjoy the Houndsman XP podcast, if you enjoy what we're doing here, if you want to help us continue to fight the good fight to stand up to animal activists that want to take away your freedoms to hunt, then go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting your podcasts, and leave a like and review. It's huge. I don't understand all of it. All I know is if you leave us a review, it boosts our ability to reach out there to the world. When people are looking for something to listen to, the more you like and review this thing, then it pops up on their players. So that's where it's at. Leave us a like and a review on your platform, especially Apple Podcasts. I also want to bring to your attention that last week on April 15th, we dropped we released our new bourbon, Ledged Out. We made several social media posts about that, showed where you can do your order, and it's a pre-order. This is a single barrel small batch, so there are only about 200 bottles available from this first edition. So don't delay. If you're wanting to support houndsmen and lion hunting and hounds and their ability to hunt with hounds, make sure you pick up a bottle. We are going to donate a portion of every sale of the bottle to the fight to preserve hunting with hounds across the whole daggum world. I'm serious. we got to draw the line in the sand somewhere and make a stand. And Houndsman XP is putting our money where our mouth is and trying to fight the good fight. Check out houndsmanxp.com, buy a Join or Die hoodie. That's the same thing. Portion of the sale goes to the fight. And check out that link for this. I'm telling you, it's a cool label. It's a cool bottle. So even if you're just going to buy one and set it on the shelf, you can do your part. Plus, have a pretty good display there for your home. Let's wrap it up for this edition of the Houndsman XP podcast. Don't take any guff off anybody. Hunting with hounds. This is Fair Chase.